Hello, and thank you for joining us today. I'm Nadia Bensad, the event manager at the Manhattan Chamber of Commerce, and I want to welcome you to this exciting webinar today. So we will discuss, today's discussion was part of the Chamber's new Pivot to Win initiative, which is designed to help small and medium-sized businesses to recalibrate and redirect themselves so they can thrive in a post-COVID world. So we have different parts of this initiative. The track one is focused on providing meaningful training around 5 key areas, which are best practices, tools, tips, and techniques to successfully steer a business through the COVID crisis and beyond. Insights into evolving consumer preferences, business opportunities, and new ways of working that will enable businesses to strategically adapt for a post-COVID world. Introduction to and training on new tech solution and e-commerce platforms, guidance and resources to maximize marketing, branding, and promotion, exposure to possible financing options needed to implement business upgrades. So, and that's why today we will discuss with Deborah Guzov, founder of Guzov LLC, and Ruth Colp Haber, partner at Wharton Property Advisor Inc. We will discuss the road to success during the new normal. So thank you, Ruth. Thank you, Deborah, for being here with us again. Your past webinar, were very successful, and we are always so happy to have you here. So today we will start with Deborah. So please, Deborah, I give you the opportunity to speak now.
Great. Well, welcome everyone, and happy Tuesday. This is a bit different than some of the webinars we've given over the weeks, which were very procedural, that talked about loans and repayments and things of that nature. What we're trying to convey here is a sense of practicality for all of us as we navigate this new normal, and how to navigate not only our existing businesses, but perhaps new businesses that we want to start, as well as making sure the businesses that we have in place have the right foundations, and we're going to pivot our actual businesses. So this is a very interesting and timely topic. Ruth and I have had many, many years of having our own businesses. I've had my own business for over 20 years, and I have been a lawyer for over 30 years. So I think between the two of us, we probably have 50 plus years of business experience to share with everyone. So we're very excited to provide you with the inside scoop on our businesses and our business practices, and engage in a dialogue with each other, as well as a dialogue with the audience, because we really would like to get into substantive questions that people have about their businesses and about how they might expand and how they might look at this unfortunate circumstance as an opportunity to thrive in a new business world. So I have created a set of slides that will be available to everyone after the webinar, and I will share it with everyone now. So what we're looking to do here is we're looking to empower, to reset our minds, businesses. It seems very big, but instances sometimes there are. We really want to help everyone find those opportunities. So let's start at the beginning. I'm going to start with the very boring lawyerly stuff. Look at this as it currently exists. is not a networking issue. This is if you're keeping your business in place, look at what's there and make sure your foundation is strong. So, of course, we all need to have our back to work plans, our telecommuting policies for employees that might not be coming back into the office. Think about what you are doing with your employees, your business. Are you protecting what you've built? Do you have confidentiality agreements in place? Do you have your employee handbook up to date? Remember, there have been changes in the laws with respect to what has to be in your employee handbook and what work you need to do with your employees to educate them with respect to things like sexual harassment policies. Make sure if you have those loans from payroll protection or the SBA that you're tracking your use of funds, and also make sure you have all of your financial documents readily available. Never know when there might be some new grant or new opportunity for our existing business or maybe a new business, and then we don't want to be scrambling to look for those documents. So this is just practical, foundational information for your business. Take a look at your corporate formation. One of the things that I saw in helping people through the Manhattan Chamber, as well as in my own client base, a lot of people ran into issues because they were sole proprietors, and the way the loan applications were set up, it was envisioned that you would have a corporation or a limited liability company. So you need to check in with your accountant and you need to look at what you have. The other thing we've also found is that unfortunately some people who run their own businesses became ill and there was no one to step into them. So you really do need to have something in place so that your business can keep running if, God forbid, you're unable to run it or you choose to do something else and keep your business in place. So it's always good to make sure your structure is such that you have people who can step in, maybe even people who might have some limited signing authority, so that if you choose to do something else, your business can keep running. So that is very important. If we're going back into our businesses, make sure everything's in place. If you have rewriting, there is a very stringent law in New York that says if you're working with independent contractors, freelancers, that everything has to be in writing or else there will be penalties if things don't go well. And again, just look at your business holistically, check with your attorney, check with your accountant, check in with the help desk at the chamber, and see if there's anything you can do to sort of tune up the foundation of your business. And if not, great, move on and keep going. Some of us have been faced with the issue of what to do. Do we keep going? Do we keep our businesses going in their current formations? We might have office leases, we may have retail spaces that in the past were not productive for us. This is our moment of truth. Look to see what we can excise, what can we cut out that was not serving us. And so that may be an issue of getting rid of a space in order for your business to flourish and grow. Also make sure that if you're in a business that provides supplies or manufacturing, that all the pieces are back in place for you to thrive and for you to be able to manufacture or provide the goods that you were providing to your clients. So we take a look at everything and we decide, okay, everything looks to be in order, or it's not in order and we need to start over. Well, where do you start over? You're in your business for many years, and how is it that we can really refashion our businesses, reinvent ourselves, and look at this as a real opportunity? So one of the ways we can do this, and the easiest way we can do this, is to go to your customer base. If you're in professional services and you have clients, or you're in any type of business where you have customers, whether it's business to business or consumers, talk to your customers and clients. That is your best resource. because listening to what you can provide may totally change your business all for the better. For example, you may have a retail store that you haven't been able to bring, it's been closed, you haven't been able to bring customers into your business. But if you reach out to your client base, to your customers, maybe they want you to deliver things to them. Maybe it's a clothing shop and you can deliver goods to your clients. Maybe it's that one little thing that they need. They're afraid to come out, but they want to go to your business. Maybe you can bring your business to them. It may be one little tweak that makes a huge difference in your bottom line. So listen, listen, listen. Listen to what they're going through and think about what you can do. Maybe you're going to become a consultant to them. Maybe your wisdom from your business becomes a consulting business. There have been so many instances where people have started doing volunteer work in their spare time. That volunteer work may be a platform for you to change your business. Maybe there's something in your business that relates to that volunteer work. Maybe your volunteer work is going to get your name out there and provide the footprint that your for-profit business needs. So really listen and observe what's going on around you. And I promise you the answers will be there, because sometimes it's something that is very simple or a very simple tweak that makes all of the difference. One of the biggest things we're seeing from my client base, Ruth's client base, is that if a business did not embrace technology, they're going to be out in the cold. Not being able to see people face to face and to provide things face to face is a reality we need to deal with. Luckily, we do have technology. So that is something that we're finding, that if a business was a retail business but had no website, those businesses are now finding they need to get that website up and running, or else they're not going to thrive in this environment. So one of the sad realities is that the businesses that don't have a technological component are the ones that are suffering. So none of us should suffer. It's simple, it's easy. You can get people to help you out on a volunteer basis. It's the summer. There are college students out there who can assist you. And so there's a lot out there that we can tap into now that can change the formation of our businesses. I know for certain that people like to meet with me in person. They want to make sure that even though on paper I might not look good, that they can connect with me. And one of the things that I've found to be very important for my business is that I can get on a Zoom call with a client and they can see me. And they can see my expressions and see what type of person I am. While that may not be the best thing in the world in terms of, is a face-to-face meeting really the litmus test to whether you will click with someone or not? Yes, that's true. But this is the next best thing. So being available to people on Zoom is key. The other thing that I found in my business, and I'm sure others are finding in their businesses, is make sure you are able to accept electronic payments. Again, people don't want to use cash. People don't want to go out and write checks and put things in the mail. And so as silly as it sounds, make sure you get in touch with your bank, or you have a PayPal account or a Venmo account or some way for your business to accept electronic payments, wire payments, etc. Make it easy for people, because if you don't, they're going to go somewhere else. So if there's one thing I can tell people right now that's key to surviving, is making sure your technology is working and in place. And that's the one place that if you have not made an investment and you want to make an investment, that is the place where everyone should be focusing. So you're ready. You decide that you're going to somehow pivot your business. You were, one of the things I love, I heard about a business that installs windows. and they were saying, gee, our business is down. People don't want us to come into their residences to change their windows. They're concerned about having workers come into their premises. And that business pivoted for banks. And suddenly the business has gone through the roof. So that's a prime example of finding a way to make lemonade out of lemons. So ready, set, go. What are we going to do? I know this sounds somewhat fuzzy, but it is imperative that you be clear in what you want to do. Whenever you throw out this concept of fuzziness, you get that fuzziness. So make sure you think about this for a while. And how do you do that? Well, one way is to prepare a business plan. If you're a person who likes numbers and metrics, prepare a quick and dirty business plan. If you don't have a format, if you don't have a template, call into the chamber help desk. I can provide them with a template to give you to put one together. To find it daunting, whatever it may be, it's a decision chart, maybe a decision tree, it's a timeline. Maybe you're going to put it to music. Whatever works for you is your way of memorializing. I find that it's always helpful at the beginning of the week when I'm thinking about my business. I reflect on it while I might be exercising or showering or sweeping the floor. And then I sit down and I write everything down. What is it that I want to happen this week? And remarkably, it does happen. I'm going to give a lecture. I'm going to reach out to a client. I'm going to generate a new client. I find that memorializing what I intend to do and what I want is always the best way to achieve it. And I know it may sound silly to some, but I welcome everyone to try that out. The other issue would be is thinking about whether you want to really change your business or maybe expand it or make a subsidiary of your business. If you have a foundation or a platform you can work from, all the better. I think one of the most important things we must do when we're pivoting our businesses is to remain accountable. Many of us get sidetracked, and it kind of sounds silly, but I remember hearing at some sort of a peer advisory group that people get caught in the weeds of their business. And it sounded so silly, but it's really true. When you're busy worrying about paying the phone bill and worrying about making sure you have enough supplies, it becomes impossible to do anything substantive in your business. So it is important that when you set these goals, you remain accountable. And one of the ways that I've found over the years that has been enormously helpful is to have an accountability group, a group of like-minded people where either you check in through a walk at 6 feet apart, get together on Zoom once a week, or a telephone where you talk about what you're doing and what you did to get to that goal. If you don't remain accountable, it's impossible not to sidetrack. So it is important that you set someone up to check in with you, even if you think you're going to be accountable. And if you really need that extra guidance, work with a business coach. There are so many great people out there that can really check in with you and be your sounding board. I find that it's lonely at the top sometimes. You're the sole proprietor, you're trying to figure out what the next step is, and you feel like, gee, I may not want to discuss this with employees. I don't want to seem vulnerable. I don't want them to know my plans. Well, that's a perfect opportunity to work with a coach, someone who can look at what you're doing and really give you some important information to guide you in the right direction. So these are things that would be really important if you decide you're going to pivot, but also important if you decide, I'm leaving my business in place, I'm going to make it thrive, I'm going to make it grow, All of these methods are going to be important. So let's talk about networking. I remember years ago, someone said the opposite of networking is not working. And it sounds kind of silly, but it's absolutely true. We need to be out there. We need our names out there. We need to be relevant in our communities. So it is very important that we continue with our networking, even though it can be a challenge. So get on those Zoom calls, make your own networking group, make your accountability group into a networking group. There are so many great opportunities. I mean, LinkedIn is one of the best resources we have. You can form groups on LinkedIn that are relevant to your industry. You can get content out there on LinkedIn. And now more than ever, I find that I've seen so many seminars I would love to go to. Continuing legal education seminars for me, or I love real estate. I see so many potential conferences to go to, and I always say, oh, I can't get away. I can't go to California to be at a conference. Well, let's embrace the fact that now we can do all this online. So now we can interact with groups that we never would have been able to interact with because our schedules wouldn't permit. So definitely jump in, dive in, and do those conferences that you would normally have liked to go to but passed over, because now they're digital and you'll be able to meet new people, broaden your horizons, and widen your net, which is really important. Content, content, content. It is essential that you get content out into the marketplace about your business, about how you think. People do business with other people that they know, respect, they like, and they feel they connect to. And a lot of that is getting information out there so that like-minded people will see what you do, whatever that is. Are you selling hats? Are you providing accounting services? Whatever it may be, this is key to success, whether you're pivoting or whether you're expanding. You must get that content out there. Websites are important, especially if you're looking to come up with digital payment methods. If you are a retail operation, obviously getting that website to be pristine is going to be essential. Social media platforms, again, they may not be appropriate for your industry. Look into it, get help, bring on an intern to be your social media expert, but that's where people look. We're bombarded with these ads when we go onto Facebook or Instagram. It's there for a reason, because it does color the way we think. So get out there and get that outreach and get that content out there so people know you exist. If you are someone who is involved in a particular industry, do your research, find out what publications are out there. You don't need to have a PR agency do it for you if you can't afford one. Reach out directly. I know I've reached out to major publications and offered to be an expert on issues, and I immediately got responses, and I was able to get quotes in the New York Times or the Real Deal. All of these things add to your footprint and allow you to develop your business. And giving you some work to do your homework. Find out what platform is best for your business. I'm an attorney. Because there's no photograph that really would be of any interest or capture what we do. It's just not going to be a demographic. We try, but no one really looks at it. So see what platforms are best for you. Is it Facebook? Is it Twitter? Is it going out there and giving a webinar yourself on some issue? See what works best for you. And many times you can use things like Instagram for video purposes. So Facebook and Instagram, if you want to do short videos, snippets, that talk about your business, talk about your thoughts about business, offering help to others. This is what interests people right now, because all of us cannot get enough information to help us through this. So it is essential that we get that content out there, and video is definitely the wave of the future, especially right now when we can't meet with people face to face. Let's talk about the realities of these businesses that we're thinking of that are great ideas. We need to bring them to fruition. So, some of you have gone through the process of getting loans, payroll protection. There's still out there's a potential for Main Street lending. That's something to look into if you need $250,000 or more. And there are various other restraints regarding that program. But look into it. If you're trying to grow your existing business, there may be money already existing out there for you. And there are, New York Forward has programs for people who didn't get PPP or SBA loans. There are some people that fell into that category. But the most important thing I can tell you right now is you must establish a relationship with a business banker. I can't tell you how many times I heard from people saying, I can't fill this out and there's no one there to answer my question. I can say that I've been very lucky because a few years ago, I established a close relationship with my business banker, and I know I can call him up on the phone and ask him questions, and I can get that attention I deserve. And all of you deserve that attention. So now is the time. If your bank isn't doing the right thing for you, is to get that relationship going. If you need suggestions or help, call into the help desk. We can get you to the right people, because that is key. The people who were successful initially in getting payroll protection got input from their bankers. And that is key to having your business thrive and making sure you have what's necessary, getting lines of credit for your business. So that relationship is a key component, whether you're leaving your business in place and growing it, or whether you're pivoting and changing your business in some way. So again, keep in mind that there are these programs. There's forgiveness for the payroll protection that takes some of the heat off of us and gives us a little help over the next few months. And also look for opportunities to mentor others or to find mentors. I suggested getting a coach. If for some reason you are not in a position to get a coach, there are so many programs where people volunteer, business owners volunteer to help. And that help is invaluable. So please, please, please look into that. The other thing is get certified. If you are minority or women-owned, there are certifications. Those certifications open doors to business. I am certified as a women-owned business by WeBank, and I can't tell you how much information I get about opportunities, about supplier diversity. There's so much out there for us, and all you need to do is fill out the applications and a world of information opens to you. So if you have a basis to get a certification, act on it immediately. And I think one of the most important things I can tell you is to, what we say, think small. Think about other small businesses. Let's make a community effort to support each other. Frequent small businesses in your community. Think of small businesses when you make referral. And think of the programs that are there to help small businesses, such as American Express, Stand for Small. And of course, the Manhattan Chamber, which is going to be your most important tool. If you need help, we're going to post the help desk information. We are here to assist you and provide you with that help you need. If you need a sounding board, we're here. If you need resources, we're here. So here are my key takeaways. clear in intentions, network, content, know your banker, get help. And remember, when we give back to other business owners, we always receive in kind. So not to be selfish about it, but it's the best way to really get out there and get your name out there. So thank you. I'm going to turn everything over to Ruth, who is going to share her pearls of to get into a bit of dialogue and entertain any questions that people have.
Okay. Deborah, that was some excellent advice. I particularly like what you said about how our lives can get caught up in the weeds. And sometimes we need help in being accountable when we're focusing on big picture, like new business. And I'm going to have some more questions for you. The presentation is done, if that's okay. And I just want to encourage everyone listening in here. We'd like to make this as interactive as possible. I also just want to thank at the outset Jessica Walker and Nadia Ben-Saad for getting me involved here with the Manhattan Chamber. It's a fantastic group and needed now more than ever. I don't know about the rest of you, but I feel like the world is turned upside down. Whatever business you're in, there's an excellent chance that your business looks completely different now than it did 4 months ago. Many of us, frankly speaking, and personally speaking, are now in basically an existential crisis when it comes to our business. Take my business, and again, I'm interested to hear from everyone else. I am in the commercial office leasing business. As many of you would imagine, selling office space or retail space now is one of these metaphors you always hear, selling ice to Eskimos, that type of thing. You can draw your own analogies. No one knows what's going to happen or how long we're going to be in this situation. So what do we do? Obviously I could crawl into bed and put the covers over my head, but I've spent over 20 years building my business and I can't give up now. Though I think many in my business, in fact, are giving up. Alternatively, I can think about change. What will give my business a fighting chance for survival? Now, let's try to focus on a few positive points for a minute. New York City has had some significant scientific success recently. And were it not for some screwballs in the rest of the country, we might actually be coming out of this crisis. But in the meantime, I want to share with you some of the marketing principles that I've developed in the last months and that I think apply across really any business. And I hope will be helpful to some of you. So, in the words of Maya Angelou, if you don't like something, change it. If you can't change it, change your attitude. So, as Deborah also said, we all need to look at our clients, at our customers, at our services, and think of them differently. Come up with new ways to have relationships with our clients and come up with new services for them. One thing I've been thinking about is ways in which I can help my clients with the trouble that they're having paying their rent and the trouble that they're having meeting any of their lease obligations. What can I do differently now that will help people remember me when my services will actually be needed? One thing that I do is I consult with a lot of my clients completely pro bono as a professional courtesy, and I analyze their lease. I update them on what the landlords in their particular buildings are doing in terms of rent relief. And I do all this at no charge to them, and I'm happy to do it because my feeling is I'm in business for the long term, and one day they're going to need me. And it might not be now, it might not be for a couple of years, but I want them to think of me, and I want to be helpful. In this world we're in now, it's all about being helpful and doing whatever you can, and what your expertise allows you to do. So I've devised advertising and marketing strategies that are tailored to the moment, taking into account my customers' anxieties and fears. And we need to emphasize here the importance of patience. Yeah, I'm like the most impatient person in the world, but we now really need to be thinking. We can't be thinking short term, even though, of course, many of us have limited resources. We need to be thinking medium term and even better, long term. It's a very hard time to make long term plans, but taking care of people is always a good strategy. Change is the law of life, and those who look only to the past and present are certain to miss the future. John F. Kennedy. So I believe you have to focus on what you can do differently that will help you in the long term, even if the short term is daunting. Many of us should look at building a new brand for these times. And what can we do to build that brand awareness? As Deborah mentioned, the importance of PR for long-term brand awareness. This is a great time to be putting out your opinions in blogs, on Facebook, on LinkedIn. And your opinions, it doesn't have to be just about your business. On politics, which in some businesses can be risky, but is always of interest. On economic situation, on what can help us fuel economic growth during these times. And I'm looking to some old technologies now. A client of mine told me, this is an elderly lady, that she was so surprised because out of the blue, she got a phone call on her cell phone from Neiman Marcus, the store, asking if she was okay. And of course, she had been a client at Neiman Marcus, but she hadn't been in for a while. But people are surprised often to get phone calls such as that. And it plants a seed in their mind. They don't forget it. So I would go back and look at some old strategies for your clients. And again, as Deborah said, look at that client list closely. Who can you call just to check in with them and see how they're doing and touch base? And you want to be front of mind. And oftentimes the phone in this day and age is a really good way to do that. The other thing I found in calling people is people are around a lot more. I mean, they're not traveling. They're not going to conferences. They're not going to lunch. They're not going to dinner. So you can actually reach people. So I have found that very effective. And I have been working myself to develop a unique voice, giving opinions on what's going on in the office space market and the retail market. Of course, there's a lot going on, so there's a lot for me to write about. But in whatever business you're in, people are interested to hear like what's going on now. How has your opening gone? How is your customer flow going? Of course, every business is different, but some amalgam of these items should be helpful for any line of business. And now, I'd like to open it up. I'd like to hear about other people's business. And if I may start, Deborah, with you. I'm curious, you're, let's call it a small to medium-sized business. And I would expect that you're often competing against big law firms to gain clients. And I'm curious how you handle that. What strategy do you use in marketing when you're competing against these huge law firms with their huge budgets?
So that is an age-old question, and I've had great success because I am accessible and available. And just like you said, the old style, picking up the phone, clients can reach me. And I know that sounds very silly, but one of the biggest complaints that I have for clients who jump ship from a large firm to work with my firm, we can do the same work at a much reduced cost, is that they can get me on the phone, that I'm accessible. I answer their emails, I answer their calls. And if I can't, someone gets back to them and says, someone will be calling you back shortly. Getting that personal touch is important for whatever business you have, whether it's a service business or a retail business, whether you're Neiman Marcus, Guzov LLC, or Wharton Properties. That personal touch is the key to success. And so I think we have lost a lot of that. And while I'm promoting technology for businesses, the old telephone call and being available is important. And that's another thing to think and keep in mind when starting a new business. To say, I'm going to start a business, but I'm going to do something else, or I'm going to stay in my job and start a new business. You have to be there. You have to be available. You have to be on the scene in order to make your business thrive. It's very difficult to get anything off the ground if you are not there physically to do it and your mind is somewhere else. So, that is an important aspect of business development and starting a business.
Yeah. Well, when you talk about being there physically, though, of course, that's all changed.
Right, of course.
As we speak in today's environment.
Meaning that you can't have your mind on another business when you're trying to launch some other aspect of your business or grow your business, just like we were talking about being in the weeds. You can't be worrying about paying your telephone bill if you're really focusing on bringing in a big fish client. You have to figure out how to prioritize and how to get your infrastructure in place so that there's someone, maybe an outside consultant who does your bookkeeping, who pays your telephone bill, to free you up to talk to the big fish client by Zoom or by telephone.
Yeah, and I'm curious along those lines, because I think probably there are a number of people out there thinking about launching new businesses. What was your motivation in starting your business? What made you take that leap?
What made me take the leap in starting my business is that I had a vision of how I felt the practice of law should be, which sounds incredibly boring to most people. But the point is, I had a vision of how clients should be serviced and how work should be done and how certain quality control measures should be in place. And I realized that my vision was somewhat unique and a little bit different than the places I had worked, because I had experience in a large firm, a medium firm, and a small firm. And I, it was a good research project for me in thinking about what I could expand upon. And so that is what motivated me. But ultimately, it was also an entrepreneurial spirit. Some of us, all of us here, small business owners, have an entrepreneurial spirit, and we see things a little bit differently than others. And that's what really gives us the motivation to go out there and do something when, especially for someone like myself or yourself, in industries that are cluttered with other people doing the thing. And the reason we thrive is because we're visionaries. So Ruth, I have a question for you. So if you were to choose one thing that has been an ingredient for the success of your business, what would you say that one thing is?
Yeah, well, for me, and this might sound kind of Norman Rockwell or so, but it's really been honesty and integrity. I'm in a business, the commercial real estate business. There are very few barriers to entry. I mean, you basically have to be over 18 and not in prison to become a real estate broker. So you get all types in this business. And I have built my business being honest and just always doing the right thing, even when my economic interests weren't in line with that. And it served me very well.
You know, and I think following up on something you said before, I think is key. You said that right now you're pivoting your business by really volunteering your time to give your clients input and advice. And I can't say enough times how important it is, especially in a service business like my business and your business, where people get to know you and get to know how you think. So I know in my business, one of my ingredients for success has been that I will speak to anyone. I take calls. I can't give legal advice if I'm not retained, but I let people see how I think, and they can see that there's creativity in what I offer them. And just being out there and volunteering your time is one of the essential components of growing a business and being a successful entrepreneur. Because if you feel like everything you have is proprietary and you're not willing to share it with the community, that's not going to make for a successful business. So I think especially now all of us need to be open to taking calls and providing insight, even if it's outside of our specific industry. If we have wisdom to give, it's now our time to give it back to our small business community.
Yeah. No, I completely agree. And the other advice I would have for our listeners is, I started my business in 1990 during another very depressed time economically. Nothing like this, okay? Which, as far as I'm concerned, the only comparisons to what we're going through now, there is one comparison, and that is the Great Depression of the 1930s. Any comparison to 2008 is invalid, in my opinion. But I started my business in 1990 when the economy was horrible. And I really spent my first 2 years just getting to know people and analyzing their leases for free. And, just to backtrack a little more for those of you that might find hopefully some inspiration in my story. And we haven't even talked about all the massive layoffs around New York yet. But I came out of business school and I was a finance major and I was a mortgage trader on Wall Street for 5 years. And then I got laid off in 1990. And I really didn't know what I wanted to do with myself. And I went to see a business advisor. And she said to me, "You're a natural for office leasing." Which I'd never heard of the field. I had no idea what it was. But I did some research and I got into the field. And my first 2 years, I was with a big firm. And they were absolutely miserable years for me. I did one 2,000-foot deal in my first 2 years. And I was really, every day I was about to just call it quits. And I went back to the business advisor and she said, "You ought to start your own business." And of course, I really did not have a lot of experience, but I went ahead and I did it. And my first year in my own business, I did 18 deals. So it was a real affirmation of a lot of hard work in spite of terrible odds and being very depressed, and I made it through. So I urge everyone to try to see into the future as much as you can.
I agree. And I also think, getting back to volunteering, many people find a lot of satisfaction in something that they do on a volunteer basis. And that doesn't mean that it can't become a business. So we all have to be mindful of the things that we do that bring us happiness and joy that we can actually turn into businesses. Many of us have been through some rough times with our businesses, but we have to look at these as dress rehearsals for the things that we're slotted to do that become really successful. You had 2 miserable years with a large firm. I had miserable years as an associate at
We've
a
all
law
been
firm.
miserable.
And it was
Yeah.
nobody needs to be miserable. It's not worth it. And so the misery has to stop, and you have to just sort of follow through on what your vision might be, even if it's the worst of times. And your example is a great example. That was a miserable period of time financially. There were layoffs. It was impossible to find jobs. The economy was awful. But yet you were able to get your business off the ground. So I think that's an inspiration for all of us. And I think we all should realize that even though this may not seem like an opportune time, there's never an opportune time. So if your feeling is, I'm about to launch my business, then do it now, because there's always going to be some reason that you can logically think of as to why you shouldn't do it. And instead, shift that thinking as to why you should do it.
Yeah, and I agree, Deborah, that in fact, and this may seem counterintuitive to many of you, now is an excellent time to start a new business. Because I will tell you, when I started, and when you start a business and there's so little opportunity out there, you don't become complacent for a minute, okay? And that really stands you in very good stead in the future. I know how hard I have to work, and I just never let up because I know you can't. So it's actually, and it's also a good time because let's face it, when you're first starting the business, you're not going to have a huge number of clients at the exact outset in any case. So you can use like these fallow months to get your brand set up, get your media set up, and launch from there.
Yeah, and I think following up on that, I've noticed again, we have a lot of exposure to people in the business world, either through my work advising clients or people I know through networking. And what I've noticed anecdotally is that there are some people who just closed down. Things weren't going well, fired their employees, closed down, and that was the end of it. Those people are probably not going to think of another business and reinvent themselves. It's the people who are on this call who are still standing and still listening and still thinking that are going to be successful, because the circumstances require you to push forward and forge ahead and be inventive. And I think that that is going to be a key component here. For those that are left standing, it's going to be those who have the true entrepreneurial spirit and are thinking of new ways to bring their businesses forward into the future.
Yeah, I want to offer one other piece of advice for everyone participating here, which is in terms of networking and the lack of networking events. Believe it or not, and this is something that we're all fortunate that we live in New York, so we can do this. How did I meet my biggest client of my entire career? Was walking down Fifth Avenue one day. I was walking down Fifth Avenue, and this is the kind of event you never forget it through your whole life. I was walking down Fifth Avenue, and I totally randomly ran into a classmate of mine from college who I hadn't seen in 10 years. I barely recognized him. He barely recognized me. But he said to me, "Oh, hi, what are you doing?" I said, "I'm in the office leasing business." He said, "Give me your card." And that guy then launched a hedge fund, which became the 15th biggest hedge fund in the United States. And, I moved him like 50. He was literally defined my career, that one encounter. And that's one of the beauties of being in New York, that even with what we're living through, you can have encounters like this. You got to keep some distance, but you can still run into people.
Agreed. And I think the other thing to keep in mind that I've found to be an ingredient for success is when you help people, I find that sometimes it takes years for them to come back to you, but they do.
Yes.
So I've gotten some of my biggest clients by giving some free advice on something that was very simple for me to give advice on. And those same people remember, they liked me, they connected with me, and they remembered, and they called me when they actually had something that was appropriate for me. So I too have gotten a lot of very substantial clients solely because I made myself available, I listened, I opined, and it definitely paid off. So again, networking is key for all of us. And if you don't have a group that's right for you, definitely call the chamber. We have these business referral groups, which are phenomenal. It also can serve as your accountability group. And we get to know each other's businesses, and we make it a point to exchange business with each other. So it's right at our fingertips, and we all should avail ourselves of being in those groups. And I'm certain that if you have an industry group that you want to start, there are always ways to do that, and there's always support to do that. So sometimes it's just starting your own group. And alumni associations, that's another point that comes out of your statement. This was someone, that, from college, you never know who you know from your past who might actually be successful and put you in a position where they put your business over the edge to that great place.
Thank you so much. So we have few minutes left. So I wanted to ask you, there is a couple of questions on our chat room. If you feel comfortable to answer, please,
sure.
If you want to answer. And then also for Renee, and for whom didn't miss the first part of this webinar, we will send a follow-up email with the recording of this event. Plus, we will send you the two presentations attached, so you can see again what was discussed earlier. So let's see if there is any question that you want to answer, both of you.
I don't see, maybe I'm in the wrong.
Yeah, I don't see anything.
Oh wait,
either.
My bad. I was not in the chat. So let's see. Okay. Someone has asked, have either of us heard of a women's group called Chiefs for Women in the C-Suite, and would we recommend it? Personally, I have not heard about that group, but in any networking group that I have ended up joining, I always speak to a couple of people before I join, and it's really not what others think. It's important that the group meets your requirements and expectations. So to Maria, with respect to that, get out there and try to meet up by Zoom with someone from the group and get more information, because I'm sure it might be a valuable tool for you. Someone's asked about business interruption insurance for small businesses. I think this is an issue we've addressed many times, where we have found that business interruption insurance did not help any of us when our businesses were interrupted. Check with your insurance broker, see if there is a product that's appropriate for these circumstances that we're in right now, because my experience personally and with my clients has been that the insurance companies take the position that indeed your business was not damaged physically. So because no water poured into your office space, even though you lost your entire business because no one can go out and purchase shoes or hats or gloves, that does not mean that your business has been interrupted. However, do get a declination from your insurance company. We can't provide you with legal advice, but that may be a basis for you to go forward and obtain an appeal so that you may be able to get the coverage you deserve. Someone's asked about the EIDL. Yes, it appears anecdotally, I've heard that 150 was what most people were saying that they received at the top end. Look into the Main Street lending program if that was not enough for you. You can still apply for it, and the loans start at 250 and they go up from there. So that may be an opportunity. Forward is definitely an opportunity for people who do not get PPP or an SBA loan. So there's opportunity for people to look for financing. Let's see if there's anything else.
Everybody become very active on questions. We just received another email. Yes.
Fine arts industry, yes, that I'm sure is very challenging, but certainly an industry that depending on what aspect of fine arts, that is certainly well suited to technology. If it's sales or things of that nature, there is an opportunity there, and so I would look into technology, and certainly it's worth pursuing, because the way the economy works is there are always people who do have money at the top, and if it's something that's discretionary, they may still be spending on it.
Yeah.
Another question, can you share further details on how you engaged the New York Times pitching as an expert? I have a unique publication proposal I would like to present. Oh, no. This is something probably that we can discuss privately.
We can. I mean, generally speaking, if you think that you have expertise, get in touch directly with an editor, or if there's someone who writes a column weekly, like an advice-related column, reach out to them. Tell them what you can do for them, and people love that, because many times reporters need assistance getting statistics, getting interesting information. I've made it reporters in the real estate industry to know what my thoughts are on certain things. What's coming across my desk is often very interesting for others, and so reach out directly.
Yeah, and I would just add to what Deborah's saying. The other thing, of course, journalists, they need content very badly. And if you send them story ideas, they love that too. And if you actually write it for them, they love that even more.
Very well. So for everyone that joined our webinar today, we will send a follow-up email with Deborah email contact and Ruth email contact, so you can ask all your questions later today or this week, whenever you want. And again, we will attach also the presentation, so the two presentations, so you can read those very interesting presentations, and you will receive also the recording of this webinar. So we will have another very interesting event next week on Thursday. So we will make sure to send you also the link of that event. Please register. The event is, the title of the event is Small Business Money Management in Time of Crisis. Again, July 9 at 12 p.m. So thank you very much, Deborah.
Thank you.
You were amazing as usual. And I hope to see you again soon for another interesting webinar. And thank you everyone for joining us today. Have a good day.
Absolutely. Thank you very much,
Thank
Nadia,
you.
for your time, and thank Jessica.
Thank you, Nadia.
Thank you.
And Deborah.
Bye-bye. Thank you, Ruth.